What looked like the collapse of a franchise has quietly become the crucible that forged an MVP-level leader.
But it's pretty hard to overlook the role that Cade Cunningham has played in all of this. He's had an all-star season, an all-NBA season.
And the rest of the league is scrambling to catch up. Here are 7 truths that explain Cade Cunningham's journey, why Detroit's roster choices mattered, how his game evolved, and what it means for the Pistons and the MVP race. From lost to leader. When the Pistons used the #1 pick on Cade Cunningham in 2021, scouts spoke as if they had found something rare, a guard with a surgical feel for spacing, timing, and tempo. That kind of language created expectations, and for a while felt like a weight. He didn't win Rookie of the Year. A fractured hand limited him to 12 games in year 2, and he spent the 3rd season playing through one of the worst stretches in franchise history, a 28-game losing streak. Most people remember the tears and the losses, a market that made every highlight feel hollow. So when whispers started about him as an MVP candidate this season, the instinct was to roll your eyes. Young prospects have been coronated before, only to recede when the league adjusted. But what Cade is doing looks less like a temporary spike and more like the emergence of a player who's nearly impossible to defend. To Chapter 1, Draft Day Promise. From the draft table forward, there were subtle signs beyond the box score, and not the instant supernova that follows the Wembanyamas, but indicators that mattered: poise, patience, and a sense of responsibility. Being the top pick brings hope, pressure, and sometimes a roster that isn't ready to win, asking you to be the cure before the illness is properly diagnosed. Detroit's rebuild was more than a reset. It was a ground-up reconstruction that required patience from management and steadiness from its young leader. People say you learn a lot about someone at their lowest, and Cade's lowest was brutal. He lived through that 28-game skid and could have folded. Instead, he showed up night after night. He didn't check out or allow losing to become resignation. After the 25th straight loss, he walked off shaking. But he kept coming back. Detroit's 14-68 season became less a final verdict than a brutal classroom. That education built a foundation: small, very early improvements, then real progress, then an accelerated climb. Nobody expected this fast. The setback didn't end his story, it sharpened it. Chapter 2, Formed by Pressure. From the moment he was picked 1st overall, there were signs beyond points and assists, a quiet leadership that showed up in practice and in the locker room. Not every top pick arrives with a passport to patience, but Cade's temperament suggested he could navigate slow construction. The organization asked him to grow inside an imperfect system, and he accepted the assignment. That acceptance revealed a maturity that wasn't flashy, but was durable. He learned how to lead by example, and how to make losing feel temporary rather than terminal. Those early seasons taught him to value preparation over praise, to seek small advantages rather than dramatic changes. That kind of growth is easy to miss on a highlight reel, but it becomes obvious over a grind of 82 games. In Chapter 3, built around Cade. Fast forward a season and Detroit won 44 games, returned to the playoffs for the first time since 2019, and pushed the Knicks to 6 games in the first round. That turnaround didn't come from panic trades or slapping another star alongside Cade. It came from deliberate construction. Detroit added fit pieces: Duncan Robinson for spacing, Karis LeVert for secondary creation, Javonte Green for energy and defense. They avoided building a roster of clashing egos, and instead assembled players who could amplify Cade rather than replace him. That patience allowed continuity. It let Cunningham develop chemistry with teammates who understood roles and spacing. The result was not just a better record, but a change in identity. Detroit became structured, dangerous, and harder to predict. Those are all design choices that paid off, because the roster's priorities matched Cade's strengths. Chapter 4, Quiet Command. Cunningham fits the mold team's dream of when they take a player 1st overall. He scores, creates, defends, and gravitates toward tight moments. 7 assists per game this season, but a rare blend of scoring and playmaking that forces defenses to choose between stopping a shot or stopping a pass. He sees the floor before it exists, hits teammates when they're open, and usually makes the right read instead of the flashy one. In late game scenarios, he probes first, resets when necessary, and turns chaos into structure. That 4th quarter composure forces opponents to change how they prepare. His leadership is cultural, not just statistical. He deflects praise, keeps teammates engaged, and leads without shrinking others. B. Bickerstaff put it, he can eat without taking food off your plate. A simple line that captures his rare ability to elevate everyone. And he's posting career highs in points, steals, blocks, and made threes. Last season he finished 7th in scoring and 4th in assists, then nearly averaged a playoff triple-double against the Knicks. Instead of celebrating and resting, he rewound the tape, hunted for ways to improve his efficiency, and leaned on veterans and Hall of Famers for targeted advice. That work is visible. His 4th quarter FG percentage is up, up, turnovers have dropped, and he's become reliably clutch. He scored 98 clutch points and shot around 50% in tight moments as of early January. He's held shooters under 44% in many defensive matchups when he's the primary defender, and his on-off numbers show Detroit is nearly 10 points better per 100 possessions with him on the court. Those metrics matter because they translate to wins, and wins change narratives. But that exposure didn't lead to panic, it prompted a focused revision. He trimmed mid-range volume, reworked shot selection, and used targeted practice plans. He studied the playoffs, sought counsel, altered his training, and returned to prioritize efficiency over volume while keeping aggression where it matters. Those changes are part of why this season feels like a different kind of breakthrough. Not simply better numbers, but a more refined floor general who can close games. Playoff failures became a study guide, and the lessons translated to real, measurable improvement. What comes next? There's still reason to temper the hype. Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are putting up historic seasons, and MVP hardware requires a sustained argument across the entire year. That said, Cade has earned a seat at the debate table, and Detroit is clearly better when he's on the floor. On-off metrics show nearly a 10-point swing per 100 possessions, and that kind of impact reshapes opponents' game plan. His teammates notice the burden and respect it. Isaiah Stewart said simply that being the head of it means carrying a workload few can handle. The Pistons have become more than a feel-good rebuild. They are a strategic problem for the East. Spacing improves, role players get easier touches, and role players thrive when the offense flows through a dependable creator. Duran, Robinson, Harris, Thompson, each benefits from defensive attention Cade attracts. There are still questions about sustainability. Can Detroit keep developing supporting pieces, maintain health, and avoid regression in three-point efficiency? Efficiency gains are possibly the biggest lever. If he climbs even a few percentage points from here, the narrative shifts from breakout to elite. There's statistical upside. Push him to 28 and 9 per game with slightly better shooting, and you're talking historic company. Yeah, just the 8th player to average at least 28 points and 9 assists over a full season. But numbers only tell part of the story. The intangible growth, calm under pressure, inclusive leadership, consistent preparation is what changes how teammates and opponents respond. Detroit's success so far is proof that their blueprint, patience, structure, and building around a proven leader can work. Still, this team needs to show it can sustain pressure late in the season and through playoff series against top teams. The early season 13-game winning streak and holding first place later into the season than they have since 2005 are encouraging signs, but small sample heat can cool. Cunningham's minutes and usage are a double-edged sword. They amplify his impact, but also increase wear, and the need for reliable depth. Front office decisions will be critical. Continuing to add players who fit spacing and defense without disrupting chemistry will determine how far this group can go. Cade's personal trajectory is clearer. He's not a hot take phenom. He's a developing franchise centerpiece who learned from adversity and doubled down on craft. The loss to New York didn't satisfy him. It became a study guide. He rewound film, adjusted practice habits, and hunted efficiency. We are an almost surgical approach to improvement. The league is noticing the shift. Detroit has stopped being a sympathetic story and started being a tactical problem. Opponents can no longer pencil the Pistons in as an easy matchup. They must plan for Cade's ability to generate shots, distribute, and take over late. That's why the MVP conversation is no longer rhetorical. It's practical. Even if he doesn't win, inclusion in the debate signals a fundamental change in how his career and the franchise are perceived. So what should the organization do next? Keep the plan. Add shooters and defenders who fit the system. Protect health. Cultivate depth and let Cade carry responsibly. For Cade, the job remains personal. Continue to improve his efficiency, maintain his defensive focus, and keep showing up night after night. The path to true contention is longer than one breakout year. It requires depth, continuity, playoff growth, and a roster that can shoulder the load when opponents zero in. But make no mistake, the Pistons are no longer a curiosity. They are a measuring stick, and Cade Cunningham is the needle. If you want the short version, patience, structure, fit, and a leader who learned from losing turned Detroit from a punchline into a real contender. Now it's up to performance and time. Continue this level, and the MVP talk becomes unavoidable. Falter, and the narrative flips again. Consider comparisons cautiously. Cade isn't a carbon copy of any past guard, but his blend of scoring, passing, and temperament invites parallels to historically great point forwards and two-way guards. Those parallels are useful for imagination, but not for forecasting. His unique path, draft expectations, injury setbacks, the disgrace of a 28-game skid, and the grind of rebuilding shaped a player who responded differently than many young stars would have. That response matters when the postseason starts. Playoff coaching scrambles matchups, and players who have learned to control tempo and lead under stress gain an outsized advantage. If Detroit can maintain depth behind Cade and keep him healthy, the ceiling stretches. A top 4 seed in the East is plausible this year, and deeper runs could follow with steady roster upgrades. Practical moves would would be to continue acquiring switchable defenders and reliable shooters who can hit open looks without needing the ball, and to give Duren and others looks that exploit the attention Cade draws. Even if the Pistons fall short of a conference title this season, the longer-term architecture feels more intact. A leader who improved through adversity, a front office that values fit, and a culture that rewards unselfishness. Cade Cunningham's rise is not a tidy narrative, it's threaded with setbacks and corrections. But that complexity is precisely why his ceiling might be higher than critics imagine. The league will test Detroit and Cade in different ways, through physical defenses, trap schemes, and playoff adjustments designed to force him away from his strengths. How he adapts will determine whether this season is remembered as a single breakout or the start of a generational run. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this one right here. It's definitely something you'll be interested in. Click it now.